My life has been devoted to issues of international justice. I mean, using courts all over the world to get international justice, particularly on issues of torture, war, disappearances, human rights. And the broad way I would say it is to get accountability. And what the Ethics Center does is it works on those very issues. It works on issues of war and peace in its theater program. It works on issues of international justice by its colloquiums and its meetings with international justice people. And so when I went to school, there was not even international law, basically. There was no international human rights law. I mean, there was no courts. So we've had an explosion, and I think what the Ethics Board does is it brings together people who are really interested in seeing that international law, that the law of human rights, or that law is applied universally and in a way that can give us a more peaceful world.
Formal equality, and formal equality perhaps in a sense exists, because in all our countries we have the Constitution which says all people are equal. We have such provisions in the books and theoretically. Practically, there was no substantive equality. So, the more I studied it, the more I realized how important the Human Rights Charter is. The Human Rights Charter that ensures equality for all, that says that what is equality after all? It is the very fact that being born a human being, you are equal amongst anybody else in society. So there is no stratification, because though in reality there is, if we could bring up a society where every human being was on this bedrock of equality, where all people were given the same amount of dignity and respect, my true belief is that we will have a much less violent society.
Probably not for me, but for example, the students at Brandeis, people are starting their careers, is that the people who operate that kind of a world tend to become very cynical and I would say hard and applying principles to realities, always exposing the difficult side of the solution. And every time I have the chance to talk, for example, to the young people who made up these United Nations models, which I talk a lot about to them because I'm in the board of the United Nations Association of the United Nations. And I say to them, continue to dream, continue to believe that those ideals that you have been taught in Brandeis and you have been reading can be achievable. Don't let yourself be defeated by the stark realities that you will be facing, because you will be facing them constantly. And I always found, a challenge not to succumb to these realities and to try to preserve my fortitude and the strength to really try to, not to pull a fast one, but to really be able to continue pushing what you believe is right. And what is right and might is a permanent struggle in the international life.
It seems to me that basic to all, fundamental to all genocides, crimes against humanity, serious discrimination against people, is the denial of their humanness, of their human dignity. It's really impossible to treat people in a disparaging way at that level, to murder and rape and kill. If one recognizes the human dignity of the victims.
My experience is somewhat different than a lot of the other people's. I mean, I'm a litigator. I'm not a judge, I'm not a diplomat, and I'm not a politician. So I'm really a person who fights for fundamental human rights and fights for equality among who gets held accountable and who doesn't. So I think a key issue is ensuring that justice is equal across the board. And so, of course, in my own life, I have cases currently pending in Spain against the Bush torture team. I had cases in France, I had them in Germany. I tried one in Switzerland against Bush, because my view is you have to even it out, not just because I'm vindictive or punitive about George Bush, but because I don't think it's fair for the big powers of the world to bring the small powers into those courts unless they themselves are subject to it. And it's not just fairness, it's really a question of how does the world look at what's legitimate or not, and how do you get a world in which law and human rights are considered the bottom line, and not simply, I'm the biggest kid on the block, so you're going to go to court, but I'm not.